Here we are again, session number 3, best bet. Let's get them. First hand of the session, I have pocket sevens in late position and call $7 raise. Four-handed, we check around a 9 high flop. The turn comes another 8, checks to me, I bet 10. Small blind calls, a middle position player ships and shows quad 8s. I did not call. Next hand, I'm the big blind and I check pocket 9s, 5-handed. I check call a $10 bet. And then we check the turn of a queen, and also check the river, and I take it down with 9s over 7s. Next hand, I have kings in the small blind. There's limps to me. I make it 15 and get 5 calls. I lead a 10 high flop for $25 and get 1 call. I check call 10 on the turn of $20, and then we check the river, and my kings and 10s hold up. Next hand, I check my option of ace-8 suited in the big blind. I check call a $17 jam from a short stack, and he ends up rivering a straight on me. Next hand, I have king jack and I limp behind middle position to a flop of king queen 4. I call a $5 bet from under the gun. He then bets 20 and a middle position player calls and I fold. The river is a 9. I would end up hitting him straight, and the other player that was betting had 2 pair. I ran the hand through Poker Stove and gave my opponent a strong range, and I had 27% equity in the pot, so I should have called. There was about 67 in the pot, and it was a $20 bet, and on top of that, the implied odds. Next hand against the same guy, I made it 7 late position, and he raised a 15 in the big blind. He led for 20 on the flop of a queen high. I call. The turn, he shipped 70, and I folded. Next hand, I had pocket 10s under the gun, made it $10 and got 3 callers. I flopped a set on an all diamond board. The small blind led for 15 and got 2 calls. Next card is another diamond. We all checked to the button. He made it 15 and we all called. And the river, we checked around and somehow I won with a set. Next hand, I had jacks and I just called a $12 raise and I folded to an ace high bet. Next hand, I had ace king. I made it 12 after 2 limps and got 6 calls. We all check around a queen high flop. I ended up folding to a bet on the turn, and a 2 pair beat ace queen. Next hand, I had queen 10. I limp called the $10 raise, and we're 4-handed. This player was being kind of wild. I ended up calling him a $15 bet on the flop with a straight draw. I call a $20 bet on the turn, and then we ended up going check on the river, and I lost to ace high. Next hand, I have king queen and opened to 8 and got a couple calls. Small blind leads out for $20 on the queen high flop. I call. The turn gives me 2 pair. She ships $70. I call, and she ended up having 2 pair on the flop, but I sucked out on her on the turn. The last hand that I tried to record, I had pocket queens, and I flopped the set, and I got paid on the flop and the turn, and I ended up making about $50 on that hand. For the session, I played about 3 hours, bought in for $200, cashed out for $320 for a profit of $120. I didn't like the way I played the session. I was definitely very passive, and I should have raised more hands. That hand where the guy gave up with ace high, I should have took a stab at the pot. There was no way I was going to win with queen high. So yeah, we're learning, we're getting better. Just keep on following. All right. There's one more hand from that session I ended up not playing, but I had pocket 5s in the small blind. Younger, good seeming player made it 20, just opened for 20. I ended up folding the small blind, the big blind called, and the flop was, of course, a 5. I would have hit a set, and the guy that made it 20 just shipped it in for like $220 pre-flop, and the big blind folded. But even before folding that hand, I wanted to call because I knew I was getting the correct odds. I had like at least 11-1 in our stacks left after the $20 bet. So I should have went with the math and just called instead of going with my gut and folding. So next time, lesson learned.